Hey everybody, Dane Wilson here again with another edition of the credit series that I'm doing on how to improve your credit scores as fast as you possibly can if you're trying to buy a house or a car or just have good credit for the future. My goal with this video series is to do everything I can to get you from point A to point B and teach you everything that you need to know in order to have the credit scores that you want. Now, let's recap a little bit on what we've gone over so far. The first thing that we talked about is the first step. If you're starting from square one and you want to know what to do first to start to improve your credit scores, what I suggested is to go get a credit report. You can't go on a trip without a roadmap. You got to have something to be able to put together a game plan. So you can either go see a loan officer. If your goal is to buy a house in the near future, I highly suggest going to see a loan officer. Because the type of report and scores that they're going to get is what you need. If that's not what your goal is or what you're doing, I suggest just going online. And you can go to our website, lenderschoicecreditsolutions.com or lendersccs.com, and you can get a Tri-Merge credit report that will show you all three of your credit scores and all three of your credit reports side by side, so you can look through it and compare it. Look at your payment history, look at your credit card balances, make sure that everything is being reported correctly, make sure your personal information is being reported correctly. And then the next thing we did was we talked about how credit scores are calculated. We talked about that 35% of your score is your payment history, 30% is your amounts owed or your indebtedness, 15% is your length of credit history, 10% is new credit or inquiries, and then the last 10% is types of credit. So last episode, we talked about the payment history part, and I gave you some tips on how to improve that specific category of your credit scores. If you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend going back and watching it, as 35% is the biggest percentage of your credit score. So that is the most important category. The next category, 30% of your score, is your amounts owed. So today, I just want to touch on a little bit of the things that you can do to improve that specific category of your credit scores. Now, some of these are going to be repeated. I've said them earlier with 35%, and I'll say them again as we move forward. But the point I'm making is certain things impact your credit scores a whole lot more than other things do. Okay, so if I repeat, get a secured credit card or become an authorized user more than once, that means it's affecting more than just one specific part of your score. It's affecting much more. So those are the first two things to improve this specific category, the 30%. If you don't have an open credit card right now, you're not utilizing this percentage of your score effectively. So you need to open a credit card, and if your credit scores are low right now, you need to start with a secured credit card. You can go to your bank, you can go to our website. We have a list of secured credit cards that is guaranteed approval. You will get approved for this secured credit card. And you need to keep the balances low, and you need to start making payments on time with them. The next one's an authorized user. If you don't have any open credit cards, or if you're trying to build more payment history and help your utilization percentage, which makes up a big part of this 30%, becoming an authorized user on somebody's credit card who's managing it very well is an option. Okay. The next option is to increase your credit limits. A lot of times I talk to clients who are getting ready to buy a house and their credit card balances are a little bit high, and they don't necessarily want to pay them off because they're trying to save that money for down payment, closing costs, furniture once they get in the house, whatever. And so they're not really wanting to part with that money. So an option that you have is every 6 months, you can actually call your credit card companies and request a credit limit increase. And I highly recommend doing that as often as possible. Once you get your credit limits high enough, you're able to utilize your credit cards more without it hurting your utilization percentage, because it's all based off percentage. It doesn't matter if you have a $200 credit card or a $200,000 limit credit card. It's all based off your utilization percentage. How much of the credit card are you using each month? What is your balance each month when they report? So get those credit limits up, and that will affect your utilization and lower your utilization, and your scores will improve. The next category is make sure, or the next thing I want to talk about is make sure that you're paying off your credit card or paying down your credit card before they start reporting to the credit bureaus, or before they report to the credit bureaus each month. I talk to a lot of people who have great credit and their scores are fluctuating 100 points a month or 80 points a month, and they call me asking why. And the answer is they're paying off their credit cards typically at the end of the month, but maybe that credit card company reported the balance to the credit bureaus earlier than that. So you have to, and so it's making it look like it's a maxed out credit card every month, even though just maybe a few days later they go pay it off. So make sure that you're paying down your balance or paying off your balance before they report to the credit bureaus every month. Okay. The next category is, this is just about kind of auditing your credit report and making sure that everything is being reported correctly. A lot of times we see that the credit card companies aren't reporting your credit limit on your credit report. They may be reporting your balance, but if they're not reporting your credit limit, it could look like you have a maxed out credit card and you don't. So just audit your credit report and make sure you're seeing all those fields on each trade line and that they're being reported correctly. So that is just an extra way to something to look into to buy yourself some points if you see one of your credit card companies not reporting your limit next to the balance. And let's see, the last one is pretty simple. Keep your credit card balances as low as you possibly can. You've probably heard that it's better to leave a little bit of a balance on your credit cards than pay them off in full, and that's absolutely true. If you already have pretty good credit scores, it's totally fine if you pay them off, but if you're trying to maximize your scores and get every single point that you can, you really want to leave a little bit of a balance, and I highly recommend single-digit balance, meaning if it's a $100 card, have less than $10 reporting every month. If it's a $1,000 card, have less than $100 reporting every month. You've probably heard, keep your balance under 30%. Well, that's helpful, but you really want it as low as you can possibly get it. As of now, they don't know what your income is. And it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire. If you have high credit card balances, they're going to assume that financially you're in a tough position. So make sure that you keep your credit card balances as low as you possibly can every single month, and you will show them what they call trended data. You'll show them over time that you are able to manage your credit well. And if you're keeping your balances low, they know that you're in a good position financially. So those are just a few tips to improve that category. I'll get back with you guys next week, and we'll move on to the next category, which is 15% of your score. I have some great tips for that category as well. As always, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want me to explain anything in more detail. I'm so happy to do that. You guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week.